Okay, so we're back at it today. Recently I had the AC in the house stop working, and it wasn't the normal start-run capacitor that went out. It was actually the relay or contactor that burnt out on the high voltage motor. It literally burnt up, not out. So there's a difference there. I'll get to that. I'll show you when I take it apart. So I've taken it apart once before, so I already know what went wrong, and I've got the part for it, bought it online, and it's here now, so I'm ready to get the unit back to working so we get a nice cool house again. The symptoms of this was that we were running the AC and everything was running like normal, and then with it running, the house just started warming up. I went downstairs, the fan and everything was on downstairs, and it was blowing air throughout the house, but the air wasn't warm. The condenser lines were warm as well, so it told me the condenser wasn't running. So I went outside to where the AC condenser is, and the condenser was completely quiet. And now that was the key, is that it was completely quiet. So I checked its run command. It was getting the 24 volts to make sure the condenser was running, but it wasn't getting the high voltage run, so that's where the contactor went bad. So I opened it up, found out I had a burnt contactor, ordered another one. So I'll walk you through how I'm going to replace this. So let me show you the contactor first. Here's what I got. This is a purpose-built contactor, which means it's not very generic. It's built for pretty much one reason. And what you get on those is this looking setup right here. So one of the things that you'll find on purpose-built contactors is that they are open air to the environment, which means while they're in the unit, you can just touch it and get electrocuted on any of these prongs right here. So they're very dangerous. They always have to have shielding around them. Generic ones have shielding on all the wires to where you can't touch the wires with the thing energized. But this one, you can get at the actual contact itself. Right there, that's what actually starts and stops the unit. And you can get all the prongs and hookups and everything like that. So what happened on the one out there, it's easier to show you here, is that lack of maintenance on the unit right here caused this wiring lug to loosen. Now, it was actually some poor termination done on the install, but realistically, it's probably how I'm going to have to do it back, because I don't have a fork terminal big enough to get in there, so I'll probably split the wiring just like they did. I'm going to check my stash first, though. But basically, I could have caught this problem had I shut this unit down preemptively and gone in there and tightened these connectors. Because I would have found that one was loose, and I would have got a couple turns on that screw and tightened down, and it probably would have saved this unit. This was it's under 20 bucks online for the replacement, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, that's what's going on outside. Let's go over some tools next that you'll need. Let me grab some. Okay, I've got some of my tools out, and I'm ready to head out there. So the basics of what you're going to need is you're going to need a multimeter, you need safety glasses, and then you'll need probably a flathead Phillips screwdriver. And if we look at these things, you might be able to get away with a driver bit on top of them, but one thing you don't want to do is over tighten these things, because if you crack the casing, you got to throw this thing away. It's just as useless as anything else. On the unit, I've got some really tiny screws mounted in this hole right here that I'm gonna have to get out. So for my ease, I'm bringing along my driver set to see if I can get at some of the smaller bits down there. Voltmeter necessary for checking power. I needed a good insulated screwdriver. Now this one is not voltage rated, but it is quite insulated. And what I need that for is grounding out the capacitor. And then on mine, I'll have to cut some wire back, because mine have burnt up the wiring on it. So I'll need some basic tools for that and moving things around. On the note for multimeters, if you don't have a multimeter and you don't know how to use a multimeter to look for voltage on your AC unit, then you should not go any further. You should just call out somebody to do this repair for you, because this guy has all the potential in the world to kill you dead on the spot if you don't know what you're doing. So if you don't know what you're doing with electrical work, do not even attempt this. If you know what you're doing, do it at your own risk. I've been doing stuff like this for a long time. I really know what I'm doing when it comes to this stuff. I know where I can and can't cut corners. So that's your warning for the video. Don't do this if you're not familiar with what's going on in this video. Okay, I got my tools out here. And on the side of the unit, everything's right on the inside here. It's held on by 2 screws down at the bottom and then 2 screws to loosen up here at the top. But they don't have to come all the way out. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to my power box. I have a local disconnect. Now the AC circuit on the inside has been shut off. But I've also already taken out the disconnect that's here. So if you look at those guys, if the AC circuit was on the inside, there would still be live power right on those 2 terminals right there. There's the connections for them on the inside. Just a cover plate. And while I have everything shut down, I'm going to go ahead and tighten those guys up as well. Okay, I've just checked for power up here. I checked phase to phase and phase to ground. And before I did that, I checked a live source to know I had live electricity, no electricity, and back to live electricity. That's my live dead live check. That way I know for sure all this is de-energized. And then down here, this is where it can get really touchy. This is the disconnect that was in the top of the circuit right there. So this is where it gets really touchy, and this is why I say you need to know what you're doing with power or call a professional out. Because inside this box, there are multiple sources of energy. By that, I mean, you have 220 coming in on these lines. All right, here's my burnt one right here. So that got burnt clean off because the screw loosened up. Because there's no ring terminal. So you can see the fantastic job the other company did installing that side, which is absolutely awesome. From the factory on the top, this is what they should have on it. They should have a fork or a ringlet on there that holds everything together. That way you don't get that, and you don't get that. I'm gonna try to clean that up. So inside here, even though I killed the big power, these two being the big power, I still have 24 volts on this guy, and I could have 24 volts on this guy right here. And the even more dangerous part is, even though I've killed it, this is your capacitor, start run capacitor. This guy still has, or could have, a couple thousand volts on it or more. Because it's designed, it's a battery basically, it's designed to store electricity. So we have to discharge that before we can touch any of this stuff. Otherwise, we might get electrocuted, shocked, really bad. It's a very bad thing. So you have, there's a start and run side, so you have potentially 2 sources of energy there. The low voltage AC, which has to be killed from inside the house. It's a 3rd source of energy, and then you have your high voltage stuff, 4th source of energy. All of these things can kill you, or will kill you, and it will hurt the entire time you're dying. So again, your warning, don't mess with this stuff if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, all right, so first thing I need to do is I need to discharge my start run capacitor. So I'm gonna go across the terminals. This is my insulated screwdriver. Got that one. The next one is the purple wire. Let's see where that guy goes. I'm gonna lift him up. Actually, can I get at the backside? I can get at the backside right there. We'll swing this guy across everything and ground it all out same time. There we go. That's all grounded out. Now, My unit's been off for a couple days, so there was no big spark. But if you had just shut this unit off from operation and you came out here and did that, you get a very, very big spark. And if you're using a screwdriver that wasn't insulated, or if you made the rookie mistake of holding the screwdriver and accidentally letting your finger get down and touch the conductor, you will get electrocuted, and it will hurt a lot. All right, so next thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna start taking this guy apart. I'm gonna have to probably cut the wire right here, strip it back, get the ends correct again on the inside. I'm gonna probably end up doing the same thing. This is construction wiring, so it's ultra rigid and hard. And then I'll take off these guys and get these guys pulled out of the way, and I'm marking everything where it goes, so I know the back left-hand corner had this color wire here, and these guys just pull off here. So the black on that spade, the orange on that spade. I also have a, sorry about the video, I also have a red sitting here on that one, right there. And by the way, that red, that's one of the capacitor feeds up there. So one thing I like to do is try to find a grounded source and touch that stuff to things. Even though I know it's dead, I've discharged, I still want to make sure. So I'm gonna go loosen these guys up here, and then I'll have to take the mounting screws off of this thing in the back. Okay, the same 1/4 inch that I took everything off with. Gonna back those screws out. See, one there. And one if I can get on it. There we go. And from working on control stuff, what I like to do is I like to leave some of my contact wires attached so I can pull it off, and then once it's off, I will move things over wire by wire with the new one. So I'll show you the new one here in just a second. Okay, I'm kind of halfway right now. Here's my old contactor. It's hanging by one of the power wires right now. I went ahead and got the new one installed. I hooked up my coil wires, and by the way, this is just a fork. It's 2 possible terminals if they're running another 24 volt off of it, but they're not, so it's just these. And then we're gonna hook these guys back up. Put my black one on that fork assembly. It's just a fork. There's nothing, there's no front, back, there's no right or wrong for these particular ones. Simply just a fork. Push that guy back down on there. One of the things I've always done working with controls and power and stuff, even though I've tested it and I know it's dead and I know there's no power on the circuit, I still treat everything like it's live. That way I don't have to, just in case something ever happens and I'm wrong. Open those guys up. Put the factory wires back in. Land the red one right there. And the black one right there. Now for these guys, I have a power screwdriver that I use, but these guys I like to go hand tight so I can feel how much torque is on them. Because I like to make them nice and tight. And then with any new installation, what happens is I'll run this for a while, and then I will come back about a week later and check it, tighten all the connections again, the 4 wires, and then I'll come back about 2 months later, which we're getting into winter now, so first thing before I start this up in the springtime is I'll come back And I'll check these 4 connections again, and then probably midsummer I'll check them again, just so this doesn't happen again. Couldn't do it. Tried to stuff those wires back in there, and it was just too half-assed for me. I've half-assed a lot of stuff, but that was way too half-assed. So I'm here at the hardware store right now trying to find the proper electrical connector to go in there. Okay, I'm here at Lowe's, and the best I can come up with in this section, it looks like they don't have any. If I went to like an AC shop, I bet you they'd have something like the proper size fork that was on there. I'll check the AC section next, but what I'm going to use these guys because they have the proper size, because they ran like 1/4-inch wire into that thing. I'm going to see if that'll fit stock. If not, I'll trim the edges, but that should be way cleaner than what's there. Let's try that. Okay, back from the hardware store. Not bad so far. I got the new one in there. Cleaned up the wiring a lot. That was nice. Requires a lot of force to crimp these guys, so make sure you have the right tools to do that. I use my wire crimpers down here at the bottom. I use these guys and really stuck it on there, and then I spent a lot of time trying to pull that back off, because if you could slip that back off, that means your connection's no good. It'll overheat and melt again, kind of like that guy. So I'm gonna go ahead and strip some wire off of this guy. I could already tell the wire is super hard down to right here, so that's where I have to cut it to. And then I'll do the same thing with that guy. Okay, got my heat shrink down there, so I decided to use that. I cut off about 2 inches, and then I opened it up, and the wiring is still discolored about 2 inches down, which means it got hot. So I cut it another 1.25 inches back and got down to fresh wiring. That's good, because if that wire is black and distorted or discolored, that means you're not going to have a good connection afterwards. Okay, just cut down my ringlet and double check. Make sure it fits on the inside there. I'm going to trim off just a hair more. It sits flush. Okay, I got that guy crimped on. I tried very hard to pull that guy off of there, but won't pull off. So now I'm gonna go ahead and put my heat shrink down and then screw it in. Okay, I'm gonna check. Got all my wires tightened. My connections on. I got my 2 coil wires on. Those wires together, everything is tucked back in, tight, ready to go. Okay. And before I put this guy back on, check him. Got a little bit out of that. This is my load side. Some out of that. That was loose. Sorry for the bad video. That was loose. Okay, that guy's tight. All right. Okay, put this guy back on. Hooks down there first, and then just snaps in. Now I will grab this guy. This was my disconnect. It only goes in one way. That's good there. Okay. Okay, we're sealed up there, back on there. Okay, our AC unit's back up and running. Went outside and checked the unit. It sounds nice, everything's running good, and getting nice cool air inside the house now. So we are back up and running. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good day. Bye.